This video covers topic 12.4 over factoring polynomials, day 1. So the first problem in the top box asks us to multiply x minus 8 times x minus 3. In order to multiply these, we are going to use our box method, so x minus 8, x minus 3. To fill in the box, I do x times x, which is x squared, x times negative 8, which is negative 8x, negative 3 times x, which is negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 8, which is a positive 24. Remember that we're looking for like terms that we can combine, so negative 8x's and negative 3x's is a total of negative 11x's. So my answer has an x squared, negative 11x's, and a positive 24. Now remember, like we talked about yesterday or on 12.3 with GCFs, factoring is the opposite of multiplication. Our steps for factoring, we factor out the GCF, which is none for this example. We write the sum and the product, and then we find the factors of our product that will add up to the sum. So with this example, our sum, what we added to were our two x's. So that negative 11x is our sum. It's the two things that we add together in our box method that adds up or that we can combine. Our product is therefore the other two numbers, so the 24 and the x squared, the two numbers that we didn't add together, we multiply to make our product. In order to work backwards, we have to write out all of our factors of 24. So we have the numbers 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. All of these numbers will multiply to be a product of 24. Now we also need this to be true. We need there to be a sum of 11. So we need to figure out which of these will add to 11, or negative 11. So in order for these to add to a negative 11, we would need to figure out something that will add to 11 but maybe make our numbers negative. Remember, we're looking for something to multiply to a positive 24. In order to multiply to a positive, both my numbers would have to be positive, or both of them would have to be negative. And then in order to add to a negative 11, both my numbers would have to be negative. The only ones that will add to 11 are 3 and 8. Negative 3 plus negative 8 would give me that sum of negative 11. And negative 3 times negative 8 would multiply to be a positive 24. So my parentheses are going to be x minus 3 and x minus 8. So we're going to look at some more examples because factoring is weird, okay? So when we have this box here, this box is going to help us. It's basically a graphic organizer to keep all of our work organized and make sure we end up with the correct factors. When we multiplied using the box, we were given the top and we filled in the middle. This time, because we have the box, we are going to fill in the box and use that to help us figure out the outsides. So we know that we have an x squared and a positive 36 because those are the things that don't change in our box. Now we know that there's some sort of x here and x here that we added together to get that middle term of 15x. So my sum is that 15x. And I had two numbers that multiplied to give me the product of 36x squared. Remember, your product is these two numbers multiplied together. So I'll do that in red. 36x squared, your first times your last. So in order to figure this out, I'm going to write out all of my products of 36, all of the numbers that I can think of that multiply to 36. So we have 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. So all of these are possibilities of things that could multiply to 36. Remember, both of these things have to be true. They have to multiply to 36, all of these do, but it also has to add to 15. So 1 and 36 do not add to 15, 2 and 18 add to 21, 3 and 12 add to 15, 4 and 9 add to 13, and 6 and 6 add to 12. So 3 and 12 are going to be my two numbers that also add to 15. So both have to be true. If you struggle with this, one thing you can do is give yourself a little bit of space to double check. 3 plus 12 equals 15. 3 times 12 equals 36. Some people think that this works well. Other people get confused with this because then they don't remember what numbers they're supposed to write in the box. The numbers that we circled over here, 3 and 12, are what we're writing in the box. And now I recommend putting signs in there too, because if you don't put a sign, some of us get kind of confused, but it's up to you. Now, in order to work backwards to go up, instead of multiplying, we're kind of dividing, but what's going to be easier for us to do is identify our GCF from the columns. So working with this column first, x squared and 12x, they share an x. On this right side, 3x and 36 both share a 3. They're both factors of 3, or both multiples of 3. Now I'm going to work my way onto this left side by going horizontally. So x squared plus 3x share an x. And then on the bottom, 12x and 36 share a 12. So when I factor, I'm working backwards, so I'm looking for my top and my side parentheses. Remember, I'm not looking to fill in the box. I have the ability to fill in the box. I need to unfill in the box and figure out my top and my bottom factors. So let's look at another example. For this example, remember I put x squared and negative 60 in my box. So I fill in the first term and the last term. I am looking for something that multiplies to that first term and the last term. Make sure you include your signs. And I am looking for two numbers that will also add to the negative 11x. We had an x here and an x here that we combined to get negative 11. So whatever my factors are, need to add to that negative 11. So my products for 60, I could do 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, and 6 times 10. All of these numbers we could multiply to get to negative 60 by making one of those numbers negative, but I also needed to add to a negative 11. So 1 and 60, I cannot get 11. 2 and 30, I couldn't get 11. 3 plus 20, I can't get 11. 4 plus 15, I can't get 11. And 6 plus 10, I can't get 11. So now what I need to do is figure out if I need to add to a negative number, something's going to have to be negative. If my sum is going to be a negative, then my bigger number will need to be negative. So if I sum to a negative, my bigger number has to be negative. Now when I add these, 1 and negative 60 don't work. Excuse me. 2 and negative 30 don't add to be negative 11. 3 and negative 20 don't add to be negative 11. But 4 plus negative 15 would give me negative 11. And remember, if you want to check, you are more than welcome to use your calculator on this. 4 times negative 15 would give me negative 60. So my factors are going to be a 4x and a negative 15x. And again, you can put that sign if you want. So to figure out what goes on top, I find my GCFs vertically. So x squared and negative 15x just share an x. 4x and negative 60 share a positive 4. Going horizontally, x squared and 4x share an x. And negative 15x and negative 60 share a negative 15. With your signs, whatever number is closest or like on top or on the outside, whatever's closest to what you're writing on the top or the side is going to be the sign that you follow. So with this example, we had a positive 4 and a negative 60. The positive 4 is closer to where I write my answer, so that's going to be a positive. Here with the negative and the negative is closer to where I write my answer that I'm looking for, so I write a negative. So my answer here is going to be x plus 4, x minus 15. Examples 3 and 4 both have, both have a GCF that I need to take out and take care of. For these problems, my GCF is most likely going to be whatever number's in front of x squared. Looking at 2, 2, and 24, I can't take out anything bigger than a 2 because I don't have anything bigger than a 2 for my first two terms. So the GCF I'm going to take out is a 2. Once I take out that 2, I rewrite what I have, x squared minus x minus 12. This is what I'm going to use for my box, so I have an x squared and a negative 12. I'm looking for two numbers that will sum or add to that middle negative x and multiply to negative 12x squared. Factors of negative 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Now again on this example, I need to add to a negative, so my bigger number needs to be negative. And in order to multiply to a negative, only one number is going to be negative. So when I add these across, I'm looking for a negative 1. 1 plus negative 12 is negative 11. 2 plus negative 6 is negative 4. 3 plus negative 4 is negative 1. So my factors are going to be a positive 3 and a negative 4. As I slide my GCFs out, x squared and negative 4x, I slide up and they share, they share an x. 3x and negative 12 share a positive 3. Remember that whatever is closest to where you write your answer, I have a 3 as positive, so I write my 3 positive. Going horizontally, x squared and 3x share an x. Negative 4x and negative 12 share a negative 4. When I write my answer, I put the GCF in front and then put parentheses around my factors so I make sure that I write them correctly. So I have a positive 2 and then a positive x plus 3 and then an x minus 4 as my factors. Problem 4 also has a GCF. When I look at these numbers, 2, 16, and 32, the biggest number I can take out is a 2 because they are all even numbers. When I take out that 2, I divide everything by 2. Bring the 2 out in front and bring down whatever I divide. So x squared, negative 8x, and positive 16. Using what's in parentheses, I fill in my box, x squared plus 16. I am looking for two numbers to fill in that will add or sum to a negative 8x and have a product of 16x squared. Ways to get to 16, 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. Now, if I'm looking to add to a negative but multiply to a positive, both of my numbers are going to have to be negative. In order to add to a negative but multiply to a positive, both of my numbers are going to have to multiply or be negative. Now, when I add these, Negative 1 plus negative 16 is negative 17. Negative 2 plus negative 8 is negative 10. Negative 4 plus negative 4 gives me that negative 8. So I have a negative 4x and a negative 4x as my factors. Time to take out those GCFs. X squared and negative 4 is x. Negative 4x and positive 16 share a negative 4. Remember that my negative 4 is closest to where I write my answer, so that's the sign I follow. Going horizontally, x squared and negative 4x share an x. Negative 4x and 16 share a negative 4. Again, negative 4 is closest to where I write my answer, so I make it a negative. When I write my answer, my GCF is 2. I have the factor x minus 4 on top and the factor x minus 4 on the side, and that is my answer. On the back, I have another GCF. When I look at all of these, we have the number 3, the number 3, and the number 18. They all share a 3. As I continue looking, we have an x cubed, x squared, and an x, meaning they all have an x. So my GCF is a 3x. I factor this out and divide. I remember that I subtract my exponents through division. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, x 3 minus 1 is 2. Negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1, x to the 2 minus 1 is 1. Negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6, x divided by x cancels. Now I can fill in my box, x squared and a minus 6. Multiply those together for my product. My sum is a negative 1x, so I have some x and some x that add to be a negative 1. Factors of negative 6, 1 and 6, 2 and 3. In order for me to multiply to a negative and add to a negative, I need one number to be negative. In order for them to total negatives, I need my bigger number to be negative. So because the sum is a negative 1, I need my bigger number to be negative. Because the product is negative, I only need one number negative. 1 plus negative 6 is negative 5. 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. So my factors are a positive 2 and a negative 3. I identify my GCFs. I'm sorry, I found the GCF. I take out my GCF from my columns. X squared and negative 3 share an x. 2x and negative 6 share a positive 2. X squared and 2x share an x. Negative 3x and negative 6 share a negative 3. When I write my answer, GCF goes in front, top factor, side factor. Problem 6 is my last factoring question. When I look at all of these, I have a 1, 3, and negative 70, so they don't have a GCF of a number. However, they don't all have x's, but they do all have y's. So I'm going to take a y out of every term, and I'm left with x squared plus 3x minus 70. I fill in my box. Sorry, that's the wrong color. And I'm looking for something that will multiply to a negative 70x and add to a 3x. Factors of negative 70 are 1 and 70, 2 and 35, 5 and 14, 7 and 10. And again, ways that you can get those factors is dividing in the calculator. So if you're not sure, you can literally sit here and go 70 divided by 1, 70 divided by 2, 70 divided by 3. And anytime you get a decimal, you don't write it. 70 divided by 4, 70 divided by 5. Oh, that's a whole number, write that one. 70 divided by 6, 70 divided by 7. Oh, that's a whole number, write that. 70 divided by 8, 70 divided by 9. And then we've already done 70 divided by 10 because that came out of 7 and 10. So if you struggle to get those factors, sit there on that calculator and work. Now, I need them to multiply to be a negative, but add to be a positive, meaning the smaller number will have to be a negative in order for them to add positive but multiply negative. So negative 1 plus 70 is 69, negative 2 plus 35 is 33, negative 5 plus 14 is 9, negative 7 plus 10 is 3. So my factors are a negative 7 and a positive 10. Time to take out the GCF from my box. X squared and 10x share an x. Negative 7x and negative 70 share a negative 7. X squared and negative 7 share an x. 10x and negative 70 share a 10. My answer puts my GCF in front, top term, bottom term. If I haven't already said it, the order in which you write your terms does not matter. It doesn't matter if you do x plus 10 and x minus 7. What does matter is that your signs are correct and that you put x and 7, negative 7 in one parentheses and x and 10 in another. You can't mix these up, like you can't put x plus x, negative 7 plus 10. You have to keep your factors together just like you had to keep them together when we multiplied. The last question asked me which expression is a factor of m squared minus 13m minus 30. So basically what I'm going to do is factor and figure out which of these is a factor. So I'm looking for something that sums to my middle term and multiplies to my product. Factors of negative 30 are 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 4 does not work, 5 and 6 multiply to 30. In order for these to add to a negative and multiply to a negative, the bigger number will have to be negative. And now when I add, I'm looking for something that adds to a negative 13. So 1 plus negative 30 is negative 29. 2 plus negative 15 is a negative 13. 3 plus negative 10 is a positive 7. So again, be very careful here. If you made both of these negative, they would add to a negative 13, but they would not multiply to a negative. So my factors are 2m and negative 15m. I identify my GCF, so m, 2 and negative 30 are both even. M, negative 15 goes into negative 30. So my factors would be m plus 2 and m minus 15. So positive 2 and negative 15 would both be factors for this expression.